Hello family. Welcome to Afri Stories, home for captivating African tales. Hit like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now, sit back, relax and enjoy today's story. Naomi Maxwell leaned forward in the cramped airport café, her knuckles white around a chipped ceramic mug. Above, a crackling speaker repeated a single grim message. Due to severe thunderstorms over Lagos, Flight 457 will be delayed by 24 hours. Frustration surged through her. She let out a breath, annoyed. Her carefully planned reveal unraveled. She had flown to Zanzibar 2 weeks ago seeking solitude and returned ready to surprise her boyfriend, Kelechi. Instead, thunderclouds had grounded her in this crowded terminal. Her phone buzzed against the table. She tapped the screen. A message from Auntie Remy, Kelechi's godmother. Call me when you land. Naomi frowned. Auntie Remy rarely messaged unless something was urgent. She dialed Kelechi, her heart fluttering. Straight to voicemail. Hey, you've reached Kelechi. Can't pick up right now, leave a message. Naomi left a voice message, her tone light. Hey love, I'm stuck in Lagos another day. Storm delay. Back tomorrow. She hung up and sent a text repeating the same. No reply. She pressed her forehead against her hand and scanned the airport scene. Weary travelers, impatient flight attendants, a digital board flickering with cancellations and gate changes. An hour later, the announcement finally changed. Passengers for Flight 457, please proceed to Gate 12 for immediate boarding. Relief warmed Naomi's chest. She grabbed her backpack, drained the last of her coffee, and headed down the corridor, past duty-free shops humming with activity. The turboprop plane rattled along the runway, engines whining against the storm. Naomi pressed her palm to the window as raindrops raced each other down the glass. She pictured herself stepping off into the Lagos sunshine, breathing the familiar heat, and seeing Kelechi waiting, his arms open. Instead, the plane circled the airport twice, dipped, and touched down heavily. A collective groan rose from the passengers. She grabbed her bag and stepped into the humid, pulsing energy of Lagos. Outside, rain fell in vertical curtains. She slipped into a fleet taxi, the driver offering a sympathetic grin. Storm is bad, he said, shifting gears. Traffic like river. Naomi nodded, peering through misted windows at winding streets. Motorcycles swerved past, headlights cutting through sheets of water. Vendors in raincoats sheltered under awnings, hawking roasted maize and steaming plantain. The city seemed alive, defiant against the deluge. After 20 minutes of slow crawl, the taxi turned onto her residential street. Naomi pressed her hand to the back door frame as the driver slowed. Her heart thudded. She saw white tents lining her front yard, sturdy poles braced against the wind. Rows of chairs were set under white canopies, their fabric flapping. Tent party? The driver asked, glancing back. Naomi barely registered him. She stared at the ornate banner draped above her gate, its gold letters glimmering despite the gray sky. Congratulations Kelechi and Chidinma. The script was bold, celebratory. Naomi's stomach twisted. She handed the driver extra cash and stepped into the wet pavement. Rain seeped through her coat seams. She sheltered her phone under her arm and crept forward, each step a mixture of dread and disbelief. Loud drumming erupted ahead, a rhythm festive and mocking. Naomi rounded the corner of the tent. Guests clad in matching asoebi fabrics laughed and danced. A DJ behind a laptop coaxed cheers, "Make some noise for the newlyweds, Kelechi and his beautiful bride." Glassware clinked on tables set with folded napkins and sparkling cutlery. The scent of jollof rice and suya mingled with damp earth. At the center of it all stood Kelechi, resplendent in white agbada, holding a glass of sparkling wine. His eyes scanned the crowd. Naomi's chest tightened as he waved and smiled, oblivious to her presence. Then she saw her, or rather, saw herself. The bride stepped forward, laughter ringing like bells. She wore the exact dress Naomi had carefully laid aside in her closet before leaving, a fitted lace gown embroidered with pearls. Her hairstyle mirrored Naomi's own twists, pinned back at the nape. Even her jewelry, the delicate gold chain and teardrop earrings, were Naomi's treasured pieces. Their eyes met, A shock jolted Naomi's spine. The bride's smile faltered, confusion flickering. For a heartbeat, they regarded each other with wide-eyed astonishment. Then the bride turned away, composing herself, gliding toward Kelechi. Naomi backed into a folding chair, knocking it over. Its legs rattled as she caught herself against a tent pole. Warm tears blurred her vision. Her heart pounded so loud she thought it might break her ribcage. A hand landed on her shoulder, firm and gentle. "Naomi, darling, how did you get back so soon?" Auntie Remy's voice was low. She wore an expression of sorrow and caution. Remy's lace blouse was soaked. Her gold bangle glinted in the tent light. Naomi spun to face her. "Remy, what is happening? Who is that woman?" Naomi's voice trembled. She pointed at the altar. Remy's brow furrowed before she guided Naomi through a side entrance and into the small service hallway beside the kitchen. Remy turned and locked the door. The cramped space smelled of stew and steamed pepper. Naomi sank onto a wooden bench, rain dripping from her coat onto the tiled floor. She struggled to breathe, to think. Remy cleared her throat. 2 weeks ago, a woman named Chidinma arrived, claiming to be your twin sister. She told a story, that you had been separated at birth, that you moved abroad, that your name was Naomi Maxwell, but this sister was your blood. Naomi's pulse raced. My twin? I have no twin. She pressed fingers to her forehead. A migraine flickered behind her eyes. Remy produced a faded photograph from her pocket. Your father kept this hidden. He never mentioned it. Look, she handed the photo to Naomi. In grainy black and white, 2 infants lay in a cradle. One was Naomi, the other looked identical, down to every dimple and nose curve. Naomi stared, disbelief stretching her face. Where did she go? Remy exhaled, eyes moist. We don't know. The village elders spoke of a river cleansing ritual gone wrong. They said the other twin was lost, claimed by spirits. They never spoke her name again. Until Chidinma came. Naomi's mind spun. So Kelechi believed her? Remy nodded. You left for vacation. Chidinma filled the space you left in our hearts. She comforted your father when he fell ill. She told stories only you would know. Silence settled. Outside, the DJ cued an applause track. Naomi's fists clenched. They're marrying her. Remy's voice dropped. They began preliminary rites today. The elders from 3 quarters are here. Naomi rose, boots squeaking. I'll stop it. Remy grabbed her arm. Be careful. Blood in our culture carries power. They might not listen. Naomi shook her off gently. I don't care. This is my life. She unlocked the door. Stepping back into the storm's aftermath, Naomi prepared to face a tent full of strangers who believed her life belonged to another. Guests turned as she emerged. Kelechi's smile faded. The bride's face paled. Lightning forked overhead, momentarily illuminating dozens of shocked expressions. Naomi inhaled rain-scented air and held her head high. Raising her voice above the hush, she said, I am Naomi Maxwell. This is my home and my life. Whatever story she told you, it ends now. Thunder rumbled in answer. The storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest unleashed completely mercilessly. Naomi crouched behind a swirling fabric panel at the back entrance to her home, her heart pounding like war drums. The faint glow of string lights illuminated the decorated hall where friends and family laughed and danced. Her eyes darted across lace tablecloths, flower arrangements, and crystal glasses perched on tables heaped with jollof rice and grilled fish. From deep within the tent came the steady pulse of gem drums, and the DJ's amplified voice boomed. Let's give it up for the new couple, Kelechi and Chidinma. Every syllable felt like a knife twisting in her chest. Clinging to the damp canvas flap, Naomi forced herself to breathe slowly. Her mind reeled. Chidinma stood at the altar in the exact ivory lace gown Naomi had set aside for her 25th birthday ensemble, now repurposed as a wedding dress. The high neckline, the fitted bodice, the intricate beadwork, they were all Naomi's. Even the hairstyle was a precise mimic of her own, delicate twists gathered into a low chignon, adorned with the same gold pins. And the jewelry, the teardrop earrings, the simple chain bracelet, were her grandmother's pieces, steeped in family history. She risked a step forward, startling a passing server carrying trays of champagne. He yelped and stumbled, sending flutes clinking across the marble floor. A hush fell over the crowd, and every eye turned to Naomi. She felt the oppressive weight of silence, as if the world held its breath. The bride, poised beside Kelechi under a garland of orchids, froze mid-laugh. Naomi's vision blurred with tears of anger and disbelief. Unable to retreat, Naomi walked toward the altar. Each step felt like wading through water, heavy and reluctant. The white tents shivered in the evening breeze. Her wet shoes squeaked on the slick stone. Kelechi's jaw dropped when he saw her. Confusion, recognition, guilt, each emotion flashed across his face. His hand trembled, the glass of wine tilting dangerously. "Naomi," he whispered, voice cracking. The bride sucked in a sharp breath and glanced at Naomi, her ivory dress glistening under the chandeliers. Naomi's gaze locked with Chidinma's. Beneath the elegant facade, she saw raw fear. Tears welled in her eyes. "Don't pretend," Naomi said, voice firm despite trembling lips. "You wore my dress. You stole my life." A ripple ran through the guests. Some gasped, others murmured in confusion. Naomi stood her ground. "Who are you?" Chidinma's hand flew to her throat. Her eyes darted toward Auntie Remy, who had appeared at the back of the room like a stern shadow. Remy's face was unreadable. Naomi took another step forward. "Answer me." Chidinma swallowed hard and raised her chin. "I am Chidinma," she stammered, voice faint. "I love Kelechi." Her words lacked conviction, brittle and shaky. Naomi's heart twisted. The hall felt smaller, saturated with tension. Then Auntie Remy moved through the stunned guests, placing a hand on Naomi's shoulder. "Stop this foolishness," she said, voice cold. "Naomi, you were gone. We thought you were abroad. We never imagined." Naomi shook free. "You thought I would never return? You accepted her as me?" She scanned familiar faces, their smiles frozen in shock. "How could you?" Her voice rose, echoing under the tent canopy. Remy sighed. "No, dear, Chidinma came with papers. Old letters, childhood photos, family records. Even your father believed her story." Naomi's knees threatened to buckle. "My father? He never mentioned a twin." At that moment, the bishop who had been officiating stepped forward. He cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should pause the ceremony," he offered, eyes flicking between the two women. "There seems to be confusion." Kelechi placed himself between Naomi and Chidinma, arms outstretched. "Naomi, please. I thought you would be away another week. She showed up in tears at our gate, claiming you gave her permission to care for me. I wanted to help." Naomi stared at him, hurt and betrayal warring in her chest. "You believed her over me?" Her voice cracked, each word a shard of ice. Chidinma's shoulders trembled. Kelechi's gaze fell. "I'm sorry," he whispered hollow. Naomi's fists clenched. Then Chidinma let out a scream, raw, animal, full of terror. The sound shattered the stunned hush. Guests recoiled. Chidinma's once composed expression contorted. Her eyes were black pools of panic as she staggered backward, clutching her chest. With a final, ragged gasp, she collapsed to her knees. Naomi bolted forward. "Chidinma," she cried, heart racing. Guests parted like the Red Sea, granting Naomi a clear path. She knelt beside the bride, hands trembling but determined. Auntie Remy followed, face a storm of fear and purpose. "Get water," Remy hissed to a nearby server. He dashed off. Naomi cradled Chidinma's pale face in her hands, her own tears forgotten. Chidinma's lips trembled in a grotesque grimace. Blood whispered at the corner of her mouth. Her skin rippled, as if something alive writhed beneath. Naomi's breath caught. Chidinma's gaze flicked to Naomi. "You shouldn't have come," she rasped, voice low and haunted. "This isn't your world." Naomi swallowed, scorching anger and concern colliding. "What do you mean?" Chidinma coughed, foam gathering at her lips. Her form seemed to shift, shadows sliding under the ivory lace. Naomi recoiled, horrified. Remy grabbed Naomi's arm. "Not here," she whispered, urgency lacing her tone. She pulled Naomi toward a side tent screened off for the elders. "Now." The priest gave a solemn nod. "Come," he murmured. Under the dim canvas, Naomi sank into a wooden chair, adrenaline ebbing. Remy stood guard, face grave. "Tell me everything you know about this woman," Remy demanded, eyes fixed on Naomi. Naomi drew in a shaky breath. "She claimed to be my twin. She produced letters from my mother, childhood photos. She knew details only family would know." Remy closed her eyes, sorrow flickering in her gaze. "She manipulated our rituals, our prayers. She stepped into our lives like a spirit." Naomi's voice trembled. "I need to speak to her." Remy's eyes hardened. "No. She's dangerous. The elders must decide what comes next." Naomi rose, resolve hardening her features. "I won't let anyone erase me." Remy reached out, but Naomi slipped past her and strode into the rain-darkened courtyard. The drumming had ceased completely. Guests clustered beneath the tent edges, casting frightened glances toward the dark sky. In the distance, another terrified whisper floated across the damp air. Naomi crossed to the low stone wall bordering the compound. Rain beaded on her hair. She wrapped her arms tight against the cold. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a message from Kelechi. "Where are you? Please come back." She slipped the phone away, chest tight. A voice behind her made her jump. Remy stood there, expression softening. "You can't face this alone." Naomi turned, eyes bright. "Then guide me." Remy took a steadying breath. "There are ancient rites, Naomi. We must consult the river priestess at dawn." Naomi's gaze drifted to the gate, where flickering lanterns cast tall shadows. "So there is magic in this world." Remy nodded gravely. "Something in our blood stirs when the balance breaks." Naomi closed her eyes. "Then show me the way." Remy placed a firm hand on Naomi's shoulder. "Stay close. The night is full of shadows, and not all come from the storm." Naomi looked back toward the tent, where Chidinma lay unconscious, her face pale and drawn. In that moment, steel settled in Naomi's spine. Tonight she would fight for her name, her life, and unravel the secret that had almost stolen both. With the echo of drums silenced, Naomi stood at the threshold of worlds, feeling the pull of ancestral voices urging her forward. Each breath felt potent with possibility, each heartbeat a rallying cry against the forces that sought to undo her. She remembered childhood evenings beneath Grandma's stories of brave women who defied destinies and shaped their own fates. The memory ignited a spark in her chest. This night, under the vigil of the storm-torn sky, she would heed that spark. She would confront the mysteries hidden in her blood with courage. She would seek the truth of Chidinma's origin, unearth the secrets the river had whispered at her cradle, and reclaim the life that destiny had almost stolen. Nothing would stand between her and the truth she was born to own. Naomi awoke before dawn, her body stiff beneath damp sheets in the guest room of her own home. Outside, the sky was a bruise of deep indigo, and distant thunder growled like an angry beast roused from slumber. She rose and crossed to the window, brushing condensation away to peer at the silent courtyard. Luxuriant bougainvillea draped over the fence, petals slick with rain. In the half-light, the white tents from the aborted weddings still stood like ghostly sentinels. Kelechi's voice drifted down the hall, low and hesitant. Naomi opened the door. He hovered in the corridor, eyes red-rimmed. "Naomi," he said, I'm so sorry." His voice cracked. "I never wanted this, any of this." Naomi nodded but kept her gaze steady. "We need answers," she said. "Tell me everything you know about Chidinma." He led her into her study, where the windows were barred with iron and family photos lined the walls. He sank into a leather chair, Naomi perched on the desk edge. "She arrived on a Wednesday," he began, voice trembling. "2 weeks ago. I was at school, preparing my lesson plans. Auntie Remy sent me a message, 'Please come home.' When I got there, I found Chidinma in the living room, crying. She said she was your cousin, twin sister, separated at birth." He swallowed. She had letters. Letters you wrote to your family from Zanzibar, from London. Your handwriting. She said you entrusted her with your life when you moved abroad to study. She claimed you gave her permission to live here, your home, your friends, your future. Naomi's stomach lurched. Where did she get the letters? She whispered. And those photos? Kelechi sighed. That's the part that frightens me. She brought a leather-bound journal, your journal. Entries you made in Zanzibar. Dates, details. She knew about the market by the pier, the fisherman's festival, the prayer you wrote after you climbed the dunes. She spoke of your grandmother's illness, of your mother's favorite lullaby. It was too convincing. Naomi closed her eyes. The journal had vanished from her suitcase on the day she left. She had told no one about the private moments etched in its pages. Someone gave it to her, she murmured, mind racing. Who else knew about it? Kelechi looked away. Your father. He rubbed his temples. Before she arrived, he had been ill, pneumonia, the doctor said. But he grew stronger under her care. He told me how she nursed him, how she reminded him to take his medicine. He said you were far away, and this cousin came when you couldn't. Naomi's pulse hammered. He never mentioned any twin. Kelechi's face was pained. He said he was ashamed. He blamed himself for your sister's disappearance. He thought she was lost in the river ceremony. When he saw Chidinma, he saw hope, a second chance. He believed she had returned. Naomi swallowed past a sudden lump in her throat. Hope, she echoed. But it was built on lies. She rose and paced. Did she ever slip up? One detail that didn't match. Kelechi shook his head. Not once. Auntie Remy and the family elders vouched for her. They believed the reunion of twins was a blessing. They called the river spirit's return a miracle. They called her Naomi's voice when she described your dreams. He closed his eyes. I didn't want to doubt her. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe it was you. Silence stretched between them, punctuated by the faint patter of rain on the roof. Naomi felt the weight of betrayal settle into her bones. Someone planted every bit of evidence, she stated. Every detail, every memory. A tremor ran through her. We need to find out who and why. Kelechi stood and offered his hand. I'll do anything to make this right. Naomi took his hand and squeezed. First, she said, we talked to my father. They drove in near silence to her elderly parents' courtyard, where a lantern flickered on the porch. Her father, Mr. Maxwell, sat in a rattan chair, wrapped in a plaid shawl despite the warmth. His face was drawn, eyes sunken, but recognition sparked when Naomi entered. He rose unsteadily. Naomi, he whispered, voice hoarse. My child. She knelt beside him. Father, what do you know about Chidinma? He looked away, pain flickering across his features. I was blind, he said softly. I thought I saw my daughter walk back into my arms. He reached for Naomi's hand. But there were things I could not explain. Naomi curled her fingers around his. Like what? He exhaled shakily. She spoke an old dialect I taught you, words from the river ritual. She sang the lullaby your mother hummed when you were babies. But she refused to say goodbye at the end of each story. She changed parts. She had heat in her eyes, like she burned with something dark. Naomi's heart pounded. Darkness. She glanced at Kelechi. Father, you said she brought family records? Mr. Maxwell nodded. Birth certificates, baptismal records, even a DNA test result. Falsified, no doubt. His hand tremored on Naomi's. I believed it was a blessing. But when the elders insisted we honor the river spirit's return, I grew uneasy. I told Auntie Remy we needed to be cautious. She agreed, but Chidinma went to the elders directly. Naomi pressed her forehead to his shoulder. Thank you for telling me. She looked up at Kelechi. We need to search the house and the yard. Find any clues she left behind. They returned to the compound. The tents had been taken down. Only flattened white canvas lay in puddles. KC ropes lay coiled on the lawn. The servants moved quietly, avoiding Naomi's gaze. She signaled her father and Kelechi to follow her into her private study. The room was exactly as she left it, shelves of books, a small writing desk, and a lockbox beneath the floorboard. Naomi removed a leather mat, revealed the floor panel, and pried it open. Inside lay the wooden lockbox containing her passport, keepsakes, and photograph albums. She lifted each item until one corner caught her eye, a small envelope stuck beneath a stack of documents. Its seal was broken, and her handwriting scrawled across the flap, "For Naomi, when I return." Her breath caught. Naomi unfolded the note. The paper was creased, dampened at the edges by rain. In careful script, it read, "My dearest cousin, thank you for keeping watch while I was away. Please return this to me when I come back. Naomi." A scream clawed at Naomi's throat. She looked up at Kelechi and her father. "She staged this. She wrote this note in my handwriting. She signed it with my name." Tears welled as the enormity sank in. Someone had forged her very soul onto paper. Kelechi placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is sick," he murmured. "But we'll expose it." Naomi folded the paper slowly. "We need to trace its origin." She scanned the lockbox. On top of her photograph albums was a slim leather notebook she did not recognize. It was bound with a silver clasp and bore no inscription. She dragged it out, palms damp. The cover was embossed with swirling river motifs. She opened it to the first page, a sketch in charcoal of the river goddess, her face half submerged in water. Underneath, in spidery script, "The river calls to me." Naomi's breath caught. "This isn't mine." She flipped through the pages. They were filled with poetic passages, incantations, prayers, detailed rituals, and maps of hidden grottos along the riverbank. There were dates, every major family event, written in the margins as though someone tracked the Maxwell lineage obsessively. Her father reached out, trembling. "This is ancient lore," he whispered. "The River Mother's book. It was lost generations ago." Naomi looked at Kelechi. "That's it. This is how she fooled everyone. She studied every ritual, every prayer, every custom." She closed the notebook tenderly and pressed it to her chest. She came prepared to deceive. Kelechi's jaw clenched. But who taught her? Where did she get it? Naomi met his fierce gaze. "That's the next question. And I think we need to talk to the river priestess." She turned to her father. "Father, can you take us there?" He nodded, resolve flickering in his eyes. "At dawn. I'll guide you." Naomi exhaled, feeling the first flush of triumph. She held the River Mother's book in her arms like a lifeline. Chidinma had weaponized family lore against her, but now Naomi possessed the key to unmask her impostor. They spent the rest of the night poring over the notebook by candlelight, cross-referencing rituals and passages. Every clue led them closer to the hidden shrine by the river where the priestess lived. Naomi's anxiety eased with each discovery. The puzzle pieces were forming a picture, revealing Chidinma's strategy and vulnerabilities. When the first hint of dawn gilded the horizon, Naomi stood at her window, notebook and journals strapped in her bag, determination blazing in her eyes. The storm had passed. The world was washed clean. She glanced at Kelechi and her father waiting below. Tonight, Chidinma had stolen her life. Tomorrow, Naomi would reclaim it, and she would confront the girl with no past. Naomi stormed into the main hall, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. The sudden hush among the guests was palpable. At the center of the room, Kelechi and Chidinma stood before the altar, rings exchanged and their first dance reserved. The DJ's speakers were muted, even the drummers had paused mid-beat. Every eye turned toward her, a tide of confusion and shock rolling across the crowd. "Stop this madness," Naomi cried, her voice echoing in the silent space. "I am Naomi Maxwell, and this ceremony is a fraud." Chidinma drew herself up, ivory lace clinging to her frame, her eyes glinting with fear or fury Naomi couldn't tell. "You're not Naomi," she hissed. "She's dead to me." Kelechi's face was ashen. He took a step forward, mouth opening and closing. "Naomi," he began, but his voice faltered under the weight of the moment. An elderly cousin clutched her husband's arm. "What is she saying?" the woman whispered. Her husband shook his head, eyes wide. Auntie Remy swept in behind Naomi, her presence like a gale. "Be silent," she commanded Chidinma. Let Naomi speak. Naomi inhaled, drawing strength. 2 weeks ago, you arrived here and wove lies about being my twin. You convinced my family, my friends, even me, for a moment, that you were one of us. You stole my voice, my memories, my identity. Gasps rippled. Chidinma's lips parted. I saved this family, she retorted. You abandoned me. You left me to die. Naomi's heart clenched. Don't speak of dying, she said. You survived on deception. You used the rituals in that cursed notebook to pose as a spirit returned. You exploited our beliefs, our love. The room pulsed with tension. Kelechi's eyes darted between them. Chidinma, he whispered. Please. His plea hung fragile in the air. Chidinma's chest rose and fell rapidly. Then she lunged at Naomi, hands outstretched. Guests shrieked and backed away. Remy intercepted the attack, grabbing Chidinma's wrists and pinning her arms behind her. 2 uncles rushed forward to help secure Chidinma's elbows with cloth strips. Naomi took a step back, breathing hard, adrenaline blazing. She watched as Chidinma thrashed, her eyes wild. Let me go. Chidinma howled. She stole my life. Auntie Remy leaned in close. Speak calmly, she said. We need the truth. Chidinma stilled in Remy's grasp, chest heaving. Her gaze locked on Naomi's. I was never supposed to find you, she whispered. They warned me, don't come back. But I had to. Who? Naomi demanded, voice low. The river elders. The priestess. They said the family line could not bear 2 heirs. They called for the lost twin to be sacrificed. Chidinma's words trembled. They summoned me into this world, taught me the rites, the stories, the names. I was their pawn. Naomi's pulse stuttered. You were summoned? She glanced at Remy. Is this true? Remy nodded. The elders whispered of the ritual. When twins are born, one offers to the river spirit. They believed your father's wife couldn't withstand bearing 2. They cast your sister into the waters. Only one could live. A hush fell. The gravity of Chidinma's confession sank into every heart. Chidinma's head drooped, tears mixing with sweat. I was hidden by the priestess. She taught me to survive in the river's shadows. She loved me like a daughter. Naomi's voice softened. And you came to reclaim what was yours? Chidinma looked up, her eyes glassy. I needed to belong. To have a life. She shivered. But I didn't know how. When I found your journal, I thought I could become you. I thought if you recognized me, I could be Naomi. Kelechi stepped forward. And when she saw me? Chidinma's gaze flicked to him. I fell in love with you. More than the lies. And I wanted to protect this life from the spirits that tried to claim me. Naomi felt tears sting her eyes. And you nearly destroyed mine. Chidinma closed her eyes. I know. She nodded slowly. I never meant harm. A tense moment passed. Then Naomi squared her shoulders. We need answers, she said. Not just for the wedding, she gestured at the torn ceremony area, but for the ritual that cast her away. Auntie Remy released Chidinma's arms. Her uncles lowered their hold. Chidinma swayed, relief and exhaustion mingling in her expression. I'll tell you everything, she agreed. But first, she crumpled onto a nearby chair. I need water. Someone fetched a glass. Chidinma drank gratefully, then sat back. Naomi gestured to the clearing beyond the tents. Let's move somewhere private. Kelechi guided Chidinma away, while Naomi and Remy led the way. Under a canopy of mango trees, sheltered from the morning sun's spark, they sat in a loose circle. Chidinma's gown was damp with tears. She clasped her legs, ready to speak. Naomi looked at her expectantly. Chidinma inhaled. It started when I was a baby. I don't remember much, just darkness. The priestess told me I was the chosen one. She taught me the chants, the prayers, and how to wear your face. Naomi's throat tightened. Why my face? Chidinma's lips quivered. Because your father's love is the key. The river's power flows through blood. With your father's belief, I could cross between worlds. Silence deepened. Naomi's mind raced. What worlds? Chidinma swallowed. The living world, and the spirit realm. The river lies between. She granted me life, but only on borrowed time. She said when the lost twin returns, one must take the other's place. Naomi jolted. So this wedding, it was the final ritual? Chidinma nodded. The marriage to the living locks the spirits crossing. It binds me here. She gazed at Naomi, anguish in her eyes. It was supposed to end tonight. A cold wind rustled the mango leaves. Naomi studied Chidinma's ashen face. Then it hasn't ended. Chidinma shivered. The ritual was interrupted. She looked at Kelechi. I'm sorry. Her words were fragile. Naomi drew in a steadying breath. We'll finish it properly. She turned to Remy. What must we do? Remy exhaled. We must return to the riverbank where the original sacrifice occurred. We perform the embodiment ritual in reverse, release the spirit. Naomi's jaw tightened. Then Chidinma will cease to be? Her voice wavered. Remy's gaze was gentle. She will return across the veil as a spirit, freed from this form. She looked at Chidinma. Are you willing? Chidinma nodded, tears streaming. Yes. Naomi studied her twin's face. The same delicate bone structure, the identical curve of cheek, the same full lips. Their shared reflection was undeniable. Then we save her soul. She extended her hand. Chidinma took it, and Naomi squeezed. Kelechi exhaled. I'll go with you. Naomi turned to him. We face this together. She clasped his hand, then Remy's. The small circle of hearts beating in unison. In that moment, the past and future converged. Naomi realized that family meant more than blood. It meant compassion, sacrifice, and forgiveness across worlds. They stood, a united front. The mango grove was quiet now, the storm clouds broken, sunlight mingled with shadows on the ground. Naomi traced her twin's features. Let's end this, she said softly. Chidinma nodded, and together, with Kelechi and Remy flanking them, they moved toward the path that led to the river. Teams of servants quietly followed, carrying sacred items. Kola nuts, white cloth, jugs of water, bowls of palm wine. As they stepped onto the muddy trail, Naomi's heart thudded, fear and hope colliding. But she walked with purpose. The lost twin walked beside her, no longer pretender, but soul in need of redemption. At the riverbank, reeds swayed in the gentle current. Birds called overhead in the hush before dawn. Naomi regarded the dark water, shimmering in the early light, an endless mirror of possibility. Welcome home, she whispered. And dawn promised a fearless new beginning. The riverbank lay hushed under a pale dawn sky, mist coiling above its dark surface like silent ghosts. Naomi knelt at the water's edge, the hem of her skirt brushing the damp earth. Behind her, Kelechi, Auntie Remy, Chidinma, and a handful of villagers formed a loose semicircle, their faces half-lit by the first amber rays of morning. The tragic aftermath of the wedding debacle lingered in the air, a charged silence pregnant with expectation and dread. Naomi drew in a steadying breath, watching the river's current swirl around her reflection. Somewhere beneath that surface lay the secret of her blood, the truth of a life never lived. A rustling among the reeds drew her attention. Emerging from the shadow of mango trees, her father, Mr. Maxwell, approached with measured steps, his clothes damp from dew and his eyes heavy with sorrow. Naomi rose, tension coiling in her chest. Father, she said, voice wavering but firm. Why are you here? I thought you were unwell at home. He stopped a pace away, dropping to one knee on the slippery bank. My child, he began, voice thick with emotion, I could not let you face this alone. His gaze flicked to Chidinma, bound only by cloth strips and trembling. I promised I would tell you the truth. I failed. Naomi's heart pounded. She motioned for him to stand. Then speak, she demanded. Tell me everything about this girl. Her father swallowed, eyes drifting toward the swirling water. When you were born, he said haltingly, the elders came in the night. They told your mother that bearing twins would anger the river spirit. They said one child must be offered, so the waters would spare the other. He pressed a trembling hand to his chest. Your mother begged them, pleaded, but the ritual was carried out. I was told you were the sole survivor, that your sister was claimed by the river. Tears sprung in his eyes. I couldn't live with the guilt, so I never spoke of it again. Naomi's knees went weak. The world tilted as memories of childhood whispers surfaced, her mother's soft lullabies, her father's distant stares. No one ever mentioned a twin, she whispered, voice cracking. How could nobody tell me? He reached for her hand. I was ashamed. I believed I was protecting you. I thought silence was kinder than truth. His voice broke. I never imagined she would return. Chidinma lifted her head, sorrow and yearning in her eyes. Father, she said softly, I was lost, but I never stopped longing for family. Her gaze locked with Naomi's, two identical souls acknowledging pain across shared features. Naomi's breath trembled. Before Naomi could respond, a figure in white robes stepped from the tree line. The local priest, Father Obinna, his face grave and lined with age. He carried a carved wooden staff topped with a cowrie shell and a small gourd. Placing the staff upright in the mud, he bowed his head. I have come as summoned, he intoned, voice echoing over the water. The river called me. Naomi's father straightened. Father Obinna, please tell my daughter what resides in her blood. The priest's eyes flicked from Naomi to Chidinma. She walks with your face, he said, voice low, but holds another spirit. His words reverberated like thunder in Naomi's mind. She swallowed. Another spirit? Father Obinna nodded gravely. In the cleansing ritual, the river spirit accepted one twin. The other twin's soul was bound to the waters, claimed by the river goddess. She survived in the spirit realm, sustained by the currents. The priestess you visited yesterday drew her back, gave her form and flesh. He turned to Chidinma. You are her vessel. Chidinma bowed her head. I did not choose this, she whispered. I only sought belonging. Her voice cracked. But I felt the spirit within me, I felt power I could not explain. Naomi's heart ached. She took a step closer. So you are both my sister and this spirit's host, she said. No wonder you knew my memories, my fears, my heart. Father Obinna gestured toward the flowing river. The final ritual must undo the original sacrifice. The spirit must be released back to the depths, so your sister's soul may rest, or return, purified. He faced Naomi. Only the true twin, bound by birth, can complete the rite. Naomi looked at her father. Then it is my duty. She turned to Chidinma. Sister, may I call you that? Chidinma's eyes shone. Naomi, she breathed. Naomi offered her hand. We reclaim your name together. Chidinma placed her trembling hand in Naomi's. Father Obinna produced a small wooden bowl filled with river water and a bundle of palm fronds. Each of you will drink from the river, he instructed. Then, only one may stand at the water's edge. You, Naomi, will speak the incantation of release. He handed Naomi the fronds. Naomi's pulse raced as she accepted them. The smooth stalks felt alive in her fingers. Her gaze swept the circle. Kelechi stood with tears in his eyes, Auntie Remy's face was stoic, and her father watched with regret and love mingled. Chidinma's expression was fragile hope. The priest began a low chant in an ancient dialect, a mournful melody that rose and fell like the tide. Each word carved ripples across the air. Naomi knelt at the water's edge and sipped the river water. It was cool and metallic, carrying the taste of moss and sediment. She coughed, then steadied herself. Chidinma drank next, her form trembling as the water touched her lips. As the final notes of the chant faded, the river's surface shimmered unnaturally. A column of pale mist rose from the water and coalesced into a shape, vague at first, then forming the outline of a woman identical to Naomi. The apparition's eyes glowed with liquid light. Naomi's chest constricted. Father Obinna raised his staff. Now, speak your name. His voice trembled. Naomi inhaled, voice carrying over the water. I am Naomi Maxwell, born of these waters, and I call you home. She waved the palm fronds in a circle before her, drawing symbols in the air. Spirit of my sister, claimant of my blood, be free." The mist woman cried out, a haunting lament that echoed through the trees. The air hummed, and the river roared as the phantom drifted toward the current. Naomi's heart pounded as she watched the silhouette dissolve into ripples. Chidinma collapsed to her knees, breathless. Naomi dropped the fronds and knelt beside her, cradling her shaking shoulders. "You're safe," she whispered. Chidinma's tears fell. "I feel lighter." Father Obinna lowered his staff. His face was a mix of relief and sorrow. "Her spirit returns to the river," he said. "She will be at peace." He looked at Naomi's father. "And the twin whose life was spared by your father's choice has found her way back." Naomi's father stepped forward and embraced Chidinma. "Welcome home," he choked. "I am so sorry." Naomi watched them, tears in her own eyes. She reached for Kelechi's hand, squeezing it. He smiled through tears. "You were magnificent," he whispered. Auntie Remy gathered them into a small circle of embrace. "The balance is restored," she said softly. "But life will never be the same." Naomi closed her eyes, breathing in the dawn air. The river's roar faded to its gentle murmur. She had uncovered the twin nobody knew, exposed the family's secret, faced the darkness beneath, and reclaimed both sisters' souls. As the sun climbed higher, warming their drenched clothes, Naomi realized that the truth, no matter how painful, could bind a family stronger than any ritual of silence. They rose together, dripping with river water and tears, stepping back onto the path leading home. Behind them, the river glistened in the morning light, its depths holding stories both ancient and new, testament to the twin no one knew about, and to the sisterhood that had defied even death itself. The choice lay before Naomi like a path splitting in the forest of her destiny. Dawn had broken clear and bright, casting a soft golden light across the river entwined with ancient reeds and winding curves. Under the gaze of the elders, the villagers, and the lingering mist, she felt the weight of every heartbeat in the land. The innocence of Chidinma, the ghost of the river spirit, the bond of sisterhood, all converged in this moment of decision. Before her, the river roared softly, as if urging her onward. Auntie Remy stood by her side, her eyes steady and clear. She had guided Naomi through rituals both gentle and fierce, through storms of betrayal and revelations of blood. Now, she spoke in a quiet voice that carried the authority of tradition. "Naomi, you must decide. The elders await your words." Naomi inhaled the fragrance of damp earth and wildflowers. The ritual had progressed through a series of prayers, offerings, and solemn chants, each step binding the spirit of Chidinma to the fate of the living. Chidinma knelt across the muddy bank, her wrists bound with palm fronds soaked in river water. The cloth strips had loosened overnight, drying to pale loops that would break with the softest tug. She looked at Naomi with eyes darker than the water's depths, shimmering with tears and courage. "I trust you," she whispered. "I believe in you." Naomi's throat tightened at the sound of her own voice echoing in Chidinma's trust. Kelechi approached, hesitantly placing his hand on Naomi's shoulder. His presence was a steady tide, offering calm amid the tumult. He met Naomi's gaze, and she saw his love and regret reflected in his dark eyes. "Whatever you choose," he said quietly, "I stand with you." The elder priest, Father Obinna, raised his carved staff, the cowrie shells chiming softly. The final offering lay on a low wooden table carved with river motifs. A bowl of kola nuts, a small gourd of palm wine, a single white feather, and a polished river stone etched with the family crest. Each object symbolized a piece of the world: nourishment, celebration, purity, and heritage. Naomi moved forward, her feet sinking into the cool mud. The air was thick with anticipation. She lifted the bowl of kola nuts with both hands, the nuts scattered like ancient seeds. "I offer these kola nuts to the river spirit," she intoned, her voice shaking with reverence. The elders repeated the words, and the kola nuts were cast into the current, disappearing beneath the ripples. Naomi watched as they drifted out of sight, carrying the first vow of release. Next, she picked up the gourd of palm wine. The amber liquid glowed in the morning sun. "I pour this palm wine in honor of Chidinma's life among us," she declared. She tilted the gourd and let the wine seep into the river's edge, where it mingled with centuries of offerings. The current swirled, as if tasting sweetness and sorrow in equal measure. Auntie Remy stepped forward with the white feather. Naomi took it gently. "This feather represents purity of heart," she said. She held it high, letting the breeze catch its barbs. Then she lowered it toward Chidinma. "May your heart be pure as you return to the spirit realm." She pressed the feather to Chidinma's forehead. Chidinma's tears glistened on her cheeks as she closed her eyes. Finally, Naomi picked up the river stone, smooth and cool to her touch. She traced the family crest with her finger. It symbolized lineage, identity, and the bond of Maxwell blood. "With this stone, I claim our heritage," Naomi said. She turned toward Chidinma and extended the stone. "And with this stone, I release you from mine." Chidinma accepted it, her fingers closing over the cool surface. Her lips curved in a sad smile. Naomi returned to the edge of the water. Father Obinna began the final chant, an intricate weaving of prayers in the old tongue. The air vibrated with sacred power. Naomi took a deep breath and raised her arms, the folds of her dress catching the sunlight. "By the power of the river, the spirit you hold may be free," she intoned. "Go forth, Chidinma, as water to water, as breath to sky. Return to your rest, and leave this vessel behind." At her words, the river seemed to exhale. The water at Chidinma's knees bubbled and roiled. A pale glow enveloped her body, casting soft ripples of silver across her form. The villagers gasped. The mist rose again, curling around Chidinma like a living cloak. Naomi watched, heart pounding, as the glow intensified. Chidinma looked up at Naomi one last time, her expression a mixture of love and farewell. She whispered, "Thank you." Then the light surged, and Chidinma's form dissolved into droplets of light that scattered across the water's mirror surface. A pulse of energy rippled outward, and the glow vanished, leaving only empty mist drifting over still water. Silence reigned. For a breathless moment, nobody moved. Then Auntie Remy let out a soft sob. Naomi sank to her knees, tears streaming uncontrollably as the weight of the moment crashed through her. Kelechi dropped to one knee beside her, wrapping his arms around her in a fierce embrace. "She's gone," Naomi whispered, voice breaking. "She's finally free." Her father emerged from the trees, face wet with rain and tears, and knelt in the mud. "Your sister has returned to peace," he said, voice choked with relief. "You did what must be done." Naomi looked at the river, its surface calm and solemn. She tasted salt on her lips. From the outskirts, villagers began to stir, voices hushed but filled with wonder. The elders stepped forward, their aged faces alight with solemn gratitude. Father Obinna lowered his staff. "The balance is restored," he proclaimed. "The river spirit is appeased, and Chidinma's soul has found rest." Naomi rose unsteadily, wiping her tears on the hem of her dress. She stepped away from the water's edge and faced the gathering. "Thank you," she said, voice still trembling but clear. "Thank you for standing with us." She looked toward her father, whose eyes shone with pride and sorrow. "Thank you for showing me the truth." Auntie Remy laid a hand on Naomi's shoulder. "You have shown great courage and kindness," she said. Kelechi squeezed Naomi's hand. "I am honored to stand by you," he said. Naomi nodded, breath catching at the promise of a future uncertain yet buoyed by hope. As the sun climbed higher, the villagers gathered to help clear the sacred items and bless the riverbank with fresh blossoms. Naomi and Kelechi walked hand in hand along the path back to the compound. The air smelled of wet earth and blooming hibiscus. Butterflies drifted among the flowers, and birds sang unseen in the trees. Naomi paused and turned to Kelechi. "Our life will never be the same," she said softly. He nodded. "But maybe it's better this way." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Yes," she whispered. "Better because we choose our path." They walked on, leaving footprints in the mud that would wash away with the next rain, but their choices, their love, and their truths would remain. Behind them, the river flowed on, carrying the memory of Chidinma, the lost twin, and the spirit released into the dawn. And in the quiet rush of water over stones, Naomi heard the gentle, soft, haunting echo of a whisper. This isn't over. The end. Enjoyed the story? We invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing more beautiful stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your effort. See you again.